Introduction to the War Song of Light and Darkness. Come and read more of my works on the website under Ayue. With a loud bang in the sky, the male lead appears brightly. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. A ray of sunshine shone in the room in the early morning. Young master, it's time to get up. The young man frowned slightly and slowly opened his eyes, saying, Today's Lilith seems to be even more beautiful than yesterday. Lilith smiled shyly and said, Young master, you hate and bully others. The young man smiled lightly, and suddenly he stood up and reached out to grab the girl's hand, pulling him into his arms and saying, Oh no, I'm going to continue bullying you. Lilith was startled and slowly said, Young master, don't make a fuss. The master asked you to go to the study to find him. The boy's hand slowly brushed over Lilith's face and said, It's really disappointing. I'll go now. Lilith looked at the young man's back and couldn't bear to say, Young master, take your time. As the young man passed by the door, he picked up an umbrella and said, Little baby, wait for me. I'll be right back. Lilith blushed and said, At the door of the study, the boy knocked on the door and said, Lao Deng, I'm here. After a while, no one in the room responded. The boy slowly opened the umbrella and pushed open the door. At this moment, a basin of water fell from the sky and the young man said helplessly, Lao Deng, you are already quite old. Why do you still play such a childish joke? At this moment, an old man walked out of the nearby bookshelf and said, It's boring, you found it every time. His name is Michel Deng, the head of the Michel family and the father of the male lead. The young man said helplessly, Lao Deng, what are you looking for me for? Lao Deng said, Teaching Michel Deng is too troublesome, simply refer to him as Lao Deng. Is there any chance that the family will be in the top 10 in a month's time? The young man said, Old Deng, can't you have some confidence in me? Why can't I get first place? Lao Deng looked at the young man and said, It's enough for you and me to watch. The young man gritted his teeth and said, Let's wait and see. The boy's name is Michel, and Cheong is the male lead of this book. We now refer to him as Cheong. Poor left the study and returned to his own room, only to find that Lilith was not there. I thought to myself, where did the little girl go, and said, Forget it, go and see what those two kids are doing. In the martial arts arena, two topless youths were competing in martial arts. I saw one of the boys shouting, Look at the poison dragon's heart-breaking technique. I saw the boy quickly circling behind the other boy. Gather your hands together to form a finger. Medium. The young man's opponent suddenly let out a scream. Ah! Michel, fix your mischievous behavior, the boy screamed in agony, covering his buttocks and cursing at another voice. These two are good friends Michel, Xiao, Michel, and Cliff that the male lead has been playing with since childhood. Michel Xiao said, Hee, are you enjoying yourself? Suddenly, Michel heard a voice in Xiao's ear. Seeing you so happy, I want you to have a good time too. Before Michel could react, she suddenly felt a pang of pain in her lower body. I saw our male lead Michel, with a mischievous smile on her face and a black hand, hitting Michel and repairing her most vulnerable area. At this time, a girl came to the arena and said, It seems that you three are still too idle. Each of you should run 500 laps around the arena for me. The girl's name is Michelle, and Enya's martial arts score is explosive. She was the champion of the previous family competition's martial arts group. Upon hearing Michelle and Enya's words, the three brothers of the male lead were immediately in agony. Michel Xiao and Michel Cliff, lying on the ground, stood up and said, We were seriously injured just now. Can we not be punished and run away? At this moment, Michelle and Enya said, If I win, I won't have to run. At this moment, all three brothers in the male lead's face turned green. Michel Cheong said, I run, don't use me as a target. Afterwards, the three brothers rushed to run. Michelle, Enya said, That's pretty good. As time approached noon, the three brothers finished 500 laps and were exhausted, lying on the ground like 3 dogs. Michelle Cliff said to Michelle Xiu, "It's all you. If it weren't for you coming over there, we wouldn't have been punished." Michelle Xiu said, "If it weren't for Qiongxiao's sudden punishment, we wouldn't have been punished so badly. It still hurts in my area." Michelle Qiong said, "Don't even talk about it. I have some rumors that Miss Ayue from the Spring Breeze Pavilion is performing tonight. I have obtained 3 tickets and we will go together when the time comes." Michelle Xiu and Michelle Cliff were instantly excited when they heard it. Michelle Xiu said, "My favorite song is the one played by Miss Ayue, the Glass Dance Immortal song." Michelle Cliff said, "I love Ayue girl dancing the most. That waist, that leg, it's really amazing." Michelle Qiong looked at her 2 brothers helplessly shaking their heads and laughing, saying, "Then hurry up and dress up, and follow me to meet Miss Ayue." Michelle Cliff and Michelle Xiu spoke in unison. "Obey, boss. Good brothers should start together, and even when it comes to picking up girls, they should also start together." You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. 2 hours later, at the door of the Michelle family, Michelle Qiong said, "Why haven't these 2 kids arrived yet? If you don't come again, I'll leave first." At this moment, Michelle Ye and Michelle Xiu said, "Here we are. The boss has been waiting for a long time." Afterwards, the 3 brothers went on the street in a hustle and bustle. This is Michelle walking ahead. The Cliff saw a fairy-like girl and thought to herself, "Wow, that's such a beautiful woman." So he went up and started a conversation. "The beauty hasn't seen you before, is it from outside?" The girl glanced at him, ignored him, and walked straight ahead. Michelle, seeing that the beauty didn't pay attention to him, Cliff leaned forward and continued, "Beauty, should I take you around the capital?" The girl gave her a cold glance and said, "Get lost." Michelle Ye heard. "Ah, there's a personality, I like it." Michelle, just as Cliff was about to continue speaking, he heard Michelle Qiong call him. "What are you doing, kid?" "Michelle," the Cliff said, "Look, boss, beauty, great beauty." Michelle Qiong, look forward and see the beautiful girl ahead. My eyes lit up. So he took a step forward and struck up a conversation with the girl in front of him. "Hello, beautiful lady. My friend just offended you. To express our apologies, we invite you to have a casual meal at the drunken Immortal Tower." Cold-faced girl said. "No interest at this moment," Michelle Xiu said, "Don't be ignorant, little girl. Our young master is treating you to dinner to save face." At this moment, the cold-faced girl. His expression was slightly angry, and his pretty face was full of evil energy. He held a long sword in his hand and wanted to use it to kill these 2 promiscuous sons. At this moment, Michelle Qiong said, "Stop it, is that how I usually teach you?" Michelle Xiu and Michelle Cliff has a bewildered expression on his face. Michelle Qiong continued, "I'm sorry, girl. If you don't want to go, then forget it. I apologize to you on behalf of my 2 friends." Michelle Qiong looked at Michelle Xiu and Michelle Ye and said, "We're not leaving yet." Michelle Xiu and Michelle Ye each looked at each other with a puzzled expression and walked away. Halfway through, Michelle Xiu and Michelle Ye asked Michelle Qiong, "What's wrong with the boss? Why do we have to run? That little girl can't beat us." Michelle Qiong said, "Don't talk, hurry up and leave." Behind the cold-faced girl, 2 beautiful figures walked out. One of them is Michelle Enya. The other is a mysterious girl wearing a cloak. Michelle Enya said. They managed to escape quickly. He turned to the cold-faced girl and said, "Princess Koya. I surprised you." Princess Koya, a cold-faced girl, said angrily, "If he didn't pull them away just now, I'll go down and chop them down with a sword." This is a mysterious girl saying. Our little Koya can't beat the 3 of them. If we accidentally get tied up by the 3 of them, the consequences will be unimaginable. Princess Kaya looked shocked and said, "Sister, won't you help me?" The mysterious girl said with a mischievous smile, I'm really looking forward to them taking you away. On the other side. In the blink of an eye, the three brothers arrived at the Spring Breeze Pavilion, and as they entered, Michelle Cheung finally felt relieved. This is the old mother of Chunfeng Pavilion. Chunhua saw the three brothers and said, "Oh, the three young masters are here." Three young masters, but they haven't come for a long time. Michelle Cheung smiled and replied, "Sister Chunhua has prepared a good room for me, the one closest to the stage." Sister Chunhua said, "No problem, room 1 in the sky has been reserved for you, young master." Michelle said, "Haha, let's go. Brother, Miss Ayue is mine." You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the three arrived at the private room, they waited quietly for the performance to begin. At this moment, a person caught Michelle Cheung's attention. He was dressed in green clothes, holding a fan in his hand, and drinking glass by glass. Seems out of place with the surrounding environment. Michelle Cheung looked at it and thought, interesting. At this moment, the lights around suddenly dimmed, and 4 lamp pillars illuminated the 5 stages from all directions. 4 beautiful women with delicate faces appeared at the corners of the stage, and music played. The 4 girls danced gracefully to the music. The music suddenly stopped, and the 4 girls froze on this stage. Above the stage, a girl dressed in white slowly landed on the stage, like a fairy landing on earth. As the white-clothed girl slowly landed on the stage, the music rang out again, and she could only hear the white-clothed girl singing. "Girl, I was originally a celestial being. Leaving the mortal world with nostalgia sigh at the beautiful scenery of the world. The smoke from the kitchen wafts warm and sweet to the heart. Xin Huan. Xin Huan. Playing in the world. Watching the warmth and coldness of the world. Sigh at the changes in the sea. In the blink of an eye, 100 seasons have passed. The beauty has become a graceful figure. Grasp strands of silver hair in your hand. Watching children and grandchildren enjoy themselves annal. Annal. As the song comes to an end. In the Spring Breeze Pavilion, there is silence. Okay, suddenly someone called out. The audience present gave enthusiastic applause. At this moment, a prominent man shouted loudly, "Ayue, I like you." He was dressed in a blue shirt and held a big red flag, which read, "Ayue, my heart belongs only to you." At this moment, the person in room 1 of the Tianzi room said, "Bastard, Miss Ayue is our boss," and another voice said, "What kind of thing do you dare to snatch women from our boss?" At this moment, Sister Chunhua walked out and said, "The 2 young masters, calm down. Tonight, Miss Ayue will accompany a young master to chat all night long. As for the price, the higher the price, the better." Michelle, Cheung, and Qingyi were eye-catching as they listened. Michelle, Cheung said, "I will produce 10,000 inferior spirit stones." Qingyi's eye-catching bag said, "I'll pay 30,000. Michelle, Cheung said, "I'll pay 50,000. At this moment, 3 young girls of young age arrived. Looking at the eye-catching bag in Qingyi and Michelle, Cheung, Ernya said, "Let's go. It's too embarrassing, don't let anyone know we know them." At this moment, Qingyi prominently said, "You forced me. Please help me exchange 200,000 spirit stones for blue and white sister, I will use this item as a pressure." I saw Qingyi prominently take out a golden token. This is the identity token of the 3rd prince of the Eternal Night dynasty. After speaking, the people present looked bewildered. Only for those present, as you say, is the 3rd prince of the Eternal Night dynasty the one who is about to inherit the throne. Another person said, yes, that's right. I didn't expect the 3rd prince to have this hobby as well. It is indeed a hero who is sad and beautiful. Hear what the people present are saying. The smile on Qingyi's face became even more brazen. Michelle, Enya listened to their conversation and was stunned. Koya said, "How could he have the token of the 3rd prince?" The mysterious girl Koli said, it seems that the third emperor has taken his path again. Michelle, Cheong listened to the conversation among the people present and said, it seems we can only use the treasure at the bottom of the container. I saw Michelle, and Cheong took out a token with an antique style. Sister Chunhua, could you please exchange 500,000 spirit stones for me as collateral? After taking the token, Sister Chunhua glanced at it and screamed, the Michelle family token. Let me explain to you that there are a total of 32 families in the Eternal Night dynasty, and the head of each family is equivalent to a prince holding a heavy army. The audience present was boiling. Passerby A said. Is it the legendary Michelle family? Passerby B said. Nonsense, you can tell from Sister Chunhua's expression that it's him. Passerby A said. The head of Michelle's family already has 15 mistresses, why do they still come to take a concubine? Can his body tolerate it? Passerby B said, I don't know if his body can handle it. Michelle, Cheong looked at Chunhua and said, Chunhua, isn't this worth 500,000 spirit stones? Spring Hua Jie said with a cold sweat on her face, of course it's worth it. Michelle Enya covered her face and said, why did the homeowner join in the fun? Koya and Kolei looked at Michelle with a bewildered expression, and Enya said, is this your father? Michelle, Enya said, don't talk to me, I want to be quiet. Koya and Kolei looked at Michelle, and Enya sympathetically said, let's go, Enya, let's ignore these stinky men. Lao Deng, you have tarnished my pure love. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Quiet, with a word from Sister Chunhua, the scene quieted down. Sister Chunhua said, do you dare to ask the third prince if he still wants to increase the price? I saw Chingy clearly and angrily say, I didn't bring enough spirit stones when I went out today, so I won't add them. At this moment, Miss Ayue spoke up and asked young Master Michelle to rest in the back hall. After washing up, I will go to the back hall to find you. Michelle, Cheong smiled slightly and said, Miss, please do as you please. As they spoke, they walked towards the back hall with Sister Chunhua. Halfway through, suddenly, a wooden stick smashed at the back of the rice noodle's head. Suddenly, Michelle knocked Cheong unconscious. When Michelle and Cheong opened their eyes again, they saw Michelle sitting opposite him. Michelle, Cheong said, Lao Deng, why are you here? What is the situation? Michelle, Deng said, okay, kid has developed skills. Even my tokens can be stolen. You're really not afraid of embarrassing me? Michelle, Cheong said nonchalantly, who told you not to keep your token safe? Michelle, Deng said. Do you know why I wanted someone to knock you out? Michelle, Cheong looked at him silently. Michelle then said, in a month, the family will have a big competition and you really don't care if you come here to find a woman. Michelle, Cheong said, just those few little brats, I'll beat them down in minutes. Michelle, Deng said. According to reliable information, the kid from Sanchang's hometown. You have already broken through the 6 levels of gas absorption. Do you think you can still work with others? Michelle, there's a cold sweat on her dome. Michelle, Deng continued. The little girl from the 4th elder's hometown has practiced a secret technique that can enhance her strength. After casting it, she can reach the 7th level of chi absorption. Michelle, Cheong's face began to look ugly. Michelle, Deng continued. 7 elders give to their little boy the treasure armor of top-grade spiritual tools. Michelle, Cheong interrupted him and said, I'll go back to practice now. Michelle said. It's too late now. I'll take you to a secret realm. As for what you can get, it depends on your nature. At this moment, Miss Ayue walked in. Michelle, Deng continued, also, you can't call Ayue's full name anymore. He is now your little mother. Michelle, upon hearing his words, Cheong suddenly felt thunderous and shouted, Old Deng, you old bastard, you have tarnished my love. At this moment, Ayue said, Xiao Cheong, be obedient and don't make your father angry. Michelle, after hearing his words, Cheong became even more tearless. In the end, I could only say, "What's this called troubling?" Then Michel, Deng, Michel, and Cheong returned to Michel's house. Michel, Deng took Michel and Cheong to a mysterious room. "Michel," Cheong asked. "What does an old man mean?" "Michel," Deng replied. "Where do you think those two kids got their techniques and secrets?" Michel, Cheong looked at the old man and didn't speak. Michel, Deng continued, "The other side of this magic circle is our ancestral home, which contains the inheritance of secret treasure spells from our ancestors of the Eternal Night Dynasty. There are endless opportunities waiting for us to explore inside." Michel, after listening to the old man's words, Cheong's eyes lit up and he said, "Inherit the ancestral land, hee, I don't know if there is any invisibility secret method." Michel, Deng glanced at Michel and Cheong said with a glance, "Don't fuss, hurry inside." Michel, Cheong hee smiled and strode towards the magic circle. With a flash of light, Michel Cheong's figure disappeared into this room. End of this chapter. Below is an introduction to the story background. The protagonist is currently in a star domain called the Heavenly Holy Star Domain, and the main star in the star domain is called the Holy King Star. The Holy King Xing has three powerful forces, namely the most powerful Yan Huang dynasty, the second-ranked Eternal Night dynasty, and the Boundless and Endless Realm. The protagonist's power is the Eternal Night dynasty, which has 3 armies, 1 hall, and 32 families. The Great Yan dynasty, with numerous sects, is the dominant empire of the Eternal Night dynasty. The endless realm of monsters is revered. Our protagonist blooms its charm in this world. 8 wild dragon halberds, 1 halberd supports the world. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Michel, as soon as Cheong came out of the magic formation, he fell empty under his feet. There happened to be a mud pit below, covered in mud. Just as he came out of the mud pit, he met 3 wild boars. Michel. Cheong said, "It's been a long time since I've eaten pork." As Michel Joan was about to take action, he suddenly realized that 3 wild boars were actually in the divine hidden realm. Then, he ran wildly and said, "What's the situation? Why do 3 wild boars have a divine sanctuary?" He was thinking in his mind to look back when 3 wild boars suddenly disappeared. Just as he was puzzled, a wild boar suddenly appeared in front of him and charged towards him. On both sides, wild boars charged towards him. Mi Xian thought to herself, "It's over." Immediately, he took out 3 fast-running talismans from his storage bag and stuck them on his legs. Then, he quickly withdrew and continued to run in the opposite direction. Gradually, he shook off the wild boar. When he was feeling proud, he only heard a click, and a crack suddenly appeared in front of him. He was caught off guard and fell in. When Michel Cheong woke up, he found a blood-red hall ahead. He thought to himself, "It seems that after a disaster, there is a chance." This statement is indeed true. Afterwards, he cautiously walked towards the blood-colored hall, and as he walked, he found that there were 3 large characters on the plaque in front of the hall. Blood God Hall. Suddenly, 3 large characters turned into blood-red skeletons rushed towards him. Without much time to think, he drew out his sword and blocked the grasp of the blood-red skeleton. With the other hand, he grabbed the arm of the blood-red skeleton and threw it to the left and back. With the other hand, he raised his sword and swung it towards the head of the skeleton, causing it to turn into a wisp of blood. The mist dissipated. Just as he breathed a sigh of relief and turned to walk towards the blood hall, he found that the entire blood hall had turned into countless blood skeletons rushing towards him. Without much thought, he turned around and ran away. Just as the attack of the blood skeleton was about to reach him. Ah! With Michel, Cheong came to his senses and realized that it was an illusion. He thought to himself, "What a terrifying environment. It seems a bit cautious, don't get the chance, leave your life here." As he slowly walked forward, he finally arrived at the front of the main hall. Then he forcefully pushed open the door with both hands, and a black halberd caught his eye. He quickly walked towards the halberd, approaching it until he saw the 5 characters, 8 Wilderness Dragon Halberd, written on its body. With one hand holding the halberd, he was about to pull it out from the ground when suddenly his eyes turned black, and a person appeared in front of him. I saw the person say, "Those who are destined, I am Dongfang Yao. Today, I have obtained the 8 Wilderness Dragon Saber, which is my descendant. Now I will pass on your 8 Wilderness Skill and Dragon Wandering Technique, and see the moves." Gathering chi to create wilderness, the wilderness gathers into a on, shining brightly for eternity, unparalleled in the world. With Michel, Cheong opened his eyes and the passing of power officially came to an end. He sighed. This senior Dongfang is truly an expert who can create such a secret technique. Randomly, he put the 8 Wilderness Dragon Halberd into his storage bag and was about to leave the main hall to continue searching for opportunities. Suddenly, he found that there were still words floating on the walls of the hall. "The Great Flame Dynasty, Dongfang Yao, lost to me today and left his martial arts secrets in the 3rd Blood Temple as a reward for his younger generation. In addition, there are a total of 6 Blood God Temples. The master who was defeated by me in the past has all his martial arts and supernatural powers hidden in the 6 Blood God Temples. Only by collecting the martial arts and secrets of the 6 Blood God Temples can I obtain my true transmission." Michel and Long Yao. Michel, Cheong looked at the words on the wall and fell into contemplation. Suddenly, the Blood Temple trembled, and the words on the wall came and went. A map appeared on the wall, which read the map of the ancestral inheritance. Michel, Cheong dared not neglect and immediately picked up a pen and paper to copy the map. Depart to the first hall. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Subsequently, Michel Dome. After searching in the main hall, I didn't find anything valuable. Prepare to leave the main hall. Just as Michel Bear arrived at the entrance of the main hall and was about to leave, he noticed a surge of pure energy surging from under the floor tiles at the entrance. He pondered. Is there any secret below? Then he swung his fist towards the ground, and the ground burst in response, revealing the bottomless tunnel inside. Michelle Cheong raised her eyebrows and felt the pure energy rushing towards her. There was indeed a secret. Michelle, Cheong walked down this secret passage step by step. At the end of the passage was a blood-red pool containing pure energy. Michelle, Cheong saw the red pool and jumped into it without saying a word. Running the newly obtained 8 Wilderness Skills cultivation with the operation of the 8 Wilderness Gong, there is pure energy in the water pool. It seems as if we have found a vent. Rushing into Michelle, Cheong's body. With the rapid infusion of pure energy. Michelle, Cheong's cultivation is also gradually improving, with 4 levels of Qi gathering, 5 levels of Qi gathering, and 6 levels of Qi gathering. The cultivation levels in this world are divided into 3 basic paths: Qi gathering, pulse communication, and divine storage. Each path is divided into 9 levels, and we will discuss them later. It wasn't until the 9th level of Qi was gathered that Michelle and Cheong could finally stop. Then, even without using the cultivation method, pure energy continued to flow into his body. He thought to himself, "Oh no, what should I do?" The energy cyclones in Michelle's body have already been filled, and as the energy is poured into her, Cheong Dantian gradually feels a bit swollen and painful. Just as Michelle was feeling anxious, Cheong suddenly thought of a way to condense his energy. This is the only way to fight, otherwise it would explode. Immediately, he operated his martial arts and saw the 9 energy cyclones within his body. 2 of them were gradually approaching, and just as the 2 cyclones were about to merge, a terrifying energy erupted around the energy cyclone, shaking Michelle and spitting blood from the dome. Failed, keep going, otherwise I will become the first man in history to be held to death by energy. I saw Michelle's dome, continuing to operate the technique. Let the 2 energy cyclones continue to merge into one. Failed again, there's no time left, let's fight. Another failure turned Michel Bear into an ant on a hot pot. He mobilized 9 energy cyclones and fiercely collided, using pure energy from outside to squeeze them together. Michel and Cheong's body suffered a huge impact as a result. Hold on, keep going. With the squeezing of pure energy, the 9 energy cyclones show a slow fusion trend. Useful, persist. As the energy cyclone merged, Michel and Cheong's body endured the repeated erosion of energy. Hold on, I can't die here. I still have plenty of girls to soak up, I still have plenty of money to spend, I haven't had time to take a good look at this world, I don't want to die here. I don't know how long it has been, a day, a week, a month, or a year. Just at Michel, the sky was hazy and hazy. After an unknown amount of time, an energy vibration pulled him back to reality, and all 9 energy cyclones in his body were gone. Instead, there is a soil yellow energy cyclone, which is not just a bit pure compared to the previous 9 energy cyclones. It is like 10 colorless energy cyclones, equivalent to this soil yellow energy cyclone. With the successful coalescence of the earthy yellow energy cyclone, Michel and Cheong miraculously discovered that the injury just caused by the energy fluctuations had miraculously healed. With the successful coalescence of the earthy yellow energy cyclone, Michel's swelling sensation in the Danshan disappeared. At this point, he finally didn't have to be the first man to be overwhelmed by the energy. With the influx of pure energy, he found that the color of the energy cyclone seemed to be a bit darker than before. It used to be light yellow, but now it is earthy yellow. Then he continued to operate the 8 wilderness technique, with countless pure energies. As if inexhaustible and inexhaustible, they rushed into the energy cyclone of Michel and Danshan. With the influx of pure energy, the color of the energy cyclone gradually turns from earthy yellow to deep yellow, black, and finally turns back into a golden trend. Okay, continue. Gradually, the energy became complete and turned into gold. With the transformation of the energy cyclone, Michel and Cheong's dantian were gradually filled, and Michel and Cheong's expression was somewhat shattered. Come on, when will Big Brother be ahead? I saw Michel's veins burst all over her body, and her dantian was filled with pure energy. Continue to condense the cyclone. Another period of time passed. The energy cyclone has condensed 8 paths, don't ask me why it's not 9 paths, you understand. Continue, merge with me. That's it, 1, 2, 3, 4. After Michel, Cheongning trained the 5th golden energy cyclone, the pure energy in the pool finally stopped flowing in. Michel, Cheong has a sense of joy in surviving a disaster. It's so close, almost exploded here. Then he stood up and found out. The blood-red pool is missing, and instead of it, a red coffin has been found at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Michel, Cheong stepped forward to look and saw a lifelike old man sitting inside the red coffin. Although his skin was dry, it was not difficult to see that he must have been a peerless powerhouse in his lifetime. I saw the withered old man holding a blood-red token in his hand. Michel, Cheong said, Senior, I have offended you. I saw Michel, like a dome. The withered old man bowed deeply and reached out to take the blood-red token from his hand. Then he walked out of the bloody pool and found words on the wall. Holding a dragon halberd, proud of the world, who dares to stop the world? There is no one in the world who can unite with me. Laughing heroes are all ants. On the other wall, Long Yao, the old thief, stole my money, running for thousands of miles but losing, hanging on the tree. January is more than enough. On the other wall, may I accompany Dragon Yao to fight in all directions, drinking and chatting with you. The sky and sea are vast. Learn from you and study advanced martial arts skills. Michel, Cheong looked at the words on the wall, smiled slightly, and left the underground secret room. Just as he left, the withered old man in the red coffin suddenly opened his eyes, smiled slightly at the place where Michel Joan had left, continued to close his eyes, and fell into a deep sleep. With Michel, Cheong emerged from the tunnel and pushed open the door of the blood-colored hall without returning. This is my first time writing a novel, and I don't know if I can succeed. I'm almost 30 years old and I don't know what to do. I don't know if writing a novel can improve my family's financial situation. Even if it doesn't, I will continue to persevere because I have a dream in my heart. Now, I want to continue to persevere for it. The Sixth Blood Temple Spirit Void God Steals Immortal Tour. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Michelle walked out of the gate of the Blood Temple. Xiong picked up the map that had just been printed and looked at it. He found that the Third Blood Temple was very close to the Fourth Blood Temple. He randomly decided to go to the Fourth Blood Temple to obtain the next inheritance. Xiong was walking forward when suddenly a blue figure rushed forward behind him. As it passed by Michelle and Xiong, the blue figure paused for a moment and continued to run forward. At this moment, Michelle and Xiong suddenly felt a chill in their crotch. His pants somehow receded above his knees, and the underwear inside disappeared. Imagine it for yourself, Xiong was shocked and turned pale. Lifting his pants, he quickly chased towards the place where the blue figure had disappeared. The more he thought about it, the more angry he became. When the blue figure disappeared, he even pinched his little brother twice. Just as Michelle was chasing forward for a while without seeing the blue figure preparing to give up, the blue figure suddenly appeared in front of him. He even twisted his buttocks and made a face at him, as if saying, "Come and grab me." Xiong suddenly became furious and chased after him like a blue figure, disregarding everything. As he chased after him, he thought to himself, "Don't let me chase you, or I'll take care of you. Punch your butt into 16 petals, let you know why the flowers are so red." Just as Michelle was chasing, Xiong noticed something was wrong. The scenery next to him gradually changed from blood red to crimson, and the ground in front of him occasionally emitted dark red flames. The temperature in this space was extremely high. At this moment, the blue figure in front suddenly disappeared and was replaced by a road sprayed with flames. The temperature on the road was more than 10 times higher than the temperature in the space where Michelle and Xiong were currently located. At the end of the road was a large hall burning a dark red flame, with 3 dark red characters written on the large plaque of the Blood God Temple. At the entrance of the Blood God Temple, a blue figure was looking at him playfully, as if saying, "What can you do to me?" His expression was very disrespectful, Michelle. Seeing his expression, Xiong immediately ran towards him regardless of his appearance, right beside him. As he stepped onto the path sprayed with flames, a terrifying temperature followed suit. He gritted his teeth and continued on, using his energy to soothe his burning body. Xiong. Continuing to run forward, he found that the closer he was to the Blood God Temple, the higher the temperature around him. He was worthy of mobilizing his energy and releasing more energy to protect his body. Just as he was about to reach the entrance of the Blood God Temple, the temperature around him had already baked his skin to a sizzling sound. He tried to mobilize the energy cyclone in his body and walked forward with all his strength. At this moment, he was already scorching hot, and his mind was blurred by the temperature, making it impossible to run anymore. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, Xiong thought to herself, "I don't want to turn into a barbecue, I need to work hard, I can't die." In the final step, his hand touched the door of the Blood Temple, and the temperature around him instantly decreased. Michelle and Xiong pushed open the door and lay there, laughing and thinking to themselves, almost turning into a barbecue. After taking a break for a while, he entered the gate of the Blood God Temple and changed into clean clothes, because his previous clothes had already been burnt out when passing through the flame road, so you know. After entering the gate, what caught the eye was a pair of black boots placed on a red platform, with golden threads on the boot barrels. Embroidered with the words, "Riding the Wind and Treading on the Clouds" boots. Michelle Joan reached out to grab the wind and cloud boots, and just as his fingers touched them, he fell back into a secret realm. A blue figure in the secret realm flickered and moved with eerie steps. Countless people around wanted to catch him, but couldn't catch him. They only heard him say, "Treading on the wind in the sky, I am free to walk in the world. No one can find a corner of their clothes, pursuing the ultimate speed. Young man, today I will pass on your skywalk and Chinkun Explorer. As his voice disappeared, the blue figure. With a strange pace, he flickered and moved, sometimes to your left and sometimes to your right. When you were about to catch him, he suddenly stood 3 feet away from you. When you wanted to chase him, he suddenly approached you again, making it impossible for you to defend yourself. Then the blue figure used another magical technique, only to see the figures around him, all kinds of things were scraped out by it one by one. Those figures had not yet reacted, and when those people had already reacted, they were left with a pair of big floral shorts. By the time Michel Cheung opened his eyes, he had already arrived at another place. All the injuries he had suffered in the flames had recovered, and he saw a cliff ahead, with various stones of all sizes floating on it. The bottom of the cliff was bottomless, and there were dark red flames burning. There is a door on the other side of the cliff. Michel Cheung thought to herself, it seems like this is the test that bad old man gave me. Randomly, he jumped onto a red stone with all his might. Just as he stepped on the stone, it suddenly fell off, and he immediately followed the stone into the burning abyss. When he opened his eyes again, he found that he had returned to where he had just stood. What was going on? He tried again and jumped onto another stone. This time, the stone did not fall. Just as he was grateful, a larger stone suddenly fell from the sky and smashed it into mud. When he opened his eyes again, he returned to his original place and searched for the Shuyuan website www.xiaoshuyuan.com. Then he took out a small knife and hit his palm, making a cut. The injury on his palm instantly healed. So, this is how all the injuries in this space will heal instantly, he said next. Michel and Cheung gradually found a path through repeated attempts, just on the side where he was about to reach the cliff. The last stone, no matter how hard he tried, could not pass through. Finally, he came up with a solution. He mobilized the energy from the dantian, gathered it all in his buttocks, and finally released it all to form a jet of air, pushing him out, commonly known as farting, causing himself to crash. In the end, he successfully reached the other side of the cliff and then showed him a sensational scene. I saw a blue figure at the door. Taking a nap, it seemed like I could feel Michel Cheung and the blue figure. Opening his eyes, he looked disdainfully at Michel Cheung, as if he was saying why he came so late, and I fell asleep while waiting. Just as Michel and Cheung were about to strike him with a knife, the blue figure turned around and walked towards the door. He had previously pushed the door open with force, but then walked in. Just as Michel and Cheung wanted to keep up, the door suddenly closed and left him outside. Michel, the dome is visible. Following the example of the blue figure, he was about to push open the door. However, after exerting all his strength, he found that there was no movement from them. This shocked him a bit. When he was in the family before, he tested his arms, weighing at least 300 pounds, but now he can't push a door. Randomly running the energy inside the dantian, I once again put my hands up and pushed it hard. This time, the door was slowly pushed open with a crack. Michel and Cheung continued to increase the energy running inside the dantian. With Michel, as the energy of the dome was about to run out, they finally fully opened the door, to be continued. Temporary matters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Take 8 days off. Stealing is an art form. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As Michel entered the gate, Cheung caught the eye of a huge white jade square. There were 6 mechanical puppets in the square, each holding a sword, a knife, 2 sledgehammers, a mountain axe, a black iron gun, and a black iron rod. In front of the square was a place similar to an operating platform, with a blue figure standing in front of the operator. The blue figure saw Michel, and after Cheung entered, he placed his hand on the control panel, a circular ball resembling a fingerprint, and placed it up with his hand. A wheel suddenly appeared on the control panel, rotating with the wheel. The blue figure withdrew its hand. As the wheel stopped, 3 things appeared on the spinning wheel, namely a gear, a necklace, and a sword. At this moment, 6 puppets acted together and attacked the blue figure. The blue figure flickered and moved freely in the puppet's return, and none of the 6 puppets had ever encountered a corner of the blue figure. Only the blue figure could be seen. Quickly returning to the control table, he placed 3 things that appeared in his hand at an unknown time. Gears, swords, and necklaces. He placed the 3 things in front of the control table, and a flash of light flashed through the sword, gears and necklaces, disappearing together. The puppet also stopped attacking at the same time, and then a light gate rose behind the wide field. The blue figure stepped in, and the light gate also disappeared at the same time. Michelle, Qiang thought to herself, it seems like this is this layer of test. Then he learned from the figure of Qingyi and pressed down on the control panel. As the wheel stopped, 3 new items appeared on top of it, namely a red gemstone, 2 puppet fingers, and a blue-black iron stick. When 3 items appeared, 6 puppets rushed towards Michelle's dome with red light in their eyes, and the long sword puppets were the first to reach Michelle's side. I saw him draw his sword towards Michelle, and Qiong swung it towards him. As soon as Michelle and Qiong dodged, common puppets would stab him with their swords. Michelle was poor and didn't dare to be careless, so he picked up the 8 wilderness wandering dragon halberd and swung it forward. Just as he blocked the sword stabbed by the long sword puppet, the mountain axe puppet was behind him, cutting towards him with his waist. Michelle and Qiong couldn't avoid being split in half, and Michelle and Qiong fell unwillingly. As Michelle and Qiong opened his eyes, he returned to the starting point. The experience just now made Michelle Joan sweat hard, saying, "Fortunately, this is inside a secret realm. If it were outside, I would have already been cold." This time, Michelle Joan cautiously approached the control console and pressed down on the ball. Then, he ran away and 6 puppets followed suit. He ran after him, but he couldn't fly. Just as Michelle and Qiong were about to cry, the dark iron stick puppet came to his front and hit him with a stick, sending him back to the starting point. So he focused on the black iron stick puppet. This time, Michel Bear continued to press the ball on the control table. As the puppet started, Michel and Qiong continued to run frantically. As he ran, he found that the dark iron stick puppet was suddenly missing. Seeing this, he immediately left his position. The next second after leaving, the blue dark iron stick puppet swung its long stick towards his previous position. Michel was grateful that he had escaped the attack of the blue dark iron stick puppet. Just as he was about to run elsewhere, the long sword puppet's sword pierced his chest. Without any accident, he was sent back to the starting point. This time, they were in a hurry to continue pressing the ball on the control panel. He stood still as if thinking something. Was that feeling wrong? I always feel that there is energy flowing in them. He immediately sat cross-legged on the ground. Mobilizing the energy inside his body, he carefully felt it, but something puzzled him happened. As he sensed it, he found that there were no energy bodies in the room except for him. Then he stood up, feeling the changes in energy around him, and walked towards the control console. Just as he pressed the ball, he suddenly felt 6 streams of energy entering the bodies of the 6 puppets. As the 6 puppets rushed towards him, he noticed that the steps of the 6 puppets seemed to follow a strange pattern. Just as the long knife was about to attack him upon its return, he imitated the steps of the puppets and took a step back, effortlessly avoiding their attack. Just when he was grateful, the mountain axe puppet lifted its axe and struck his head, Michel, Qiong. Holding the 8 Wilderness Dragon Quest machine and blocking it horizontally above the head, it blocked the attack of the mountain axe puppet, but was pierced in the back by the black iron spear puppet. As Michel Joan returned to the starting point, this time he did not go to the console to calculate the circle, but imitated the steps of 6 puppets and ran around the room. As he ran, he found that the steps of the 6 puppets were like those of an old man in green clothes, walking in the air with a clear air. It seems that the old man in green clothes passed on the Lingshu treading steps to them, which is also good. He can use them to practice the Lingshu treading steps. Then Michel Joan continued to walk towards the control panel and pressed the original button, 6 puppets. It also immediately starts. After an unknown amount of time, Michel and Cheong were finally able to remain unbeaten under the joint attack of 6 puppets. Michel and Cheong could barely withstand the joint attack of the 6 puppets. Michel, find the book Garden at www.zhaozuiyuan.com. Attempting to take away the weapon of the dark iron stick puppet, Michel was seen. Cheong grabbed the dark iron stick and pulled it back fiercely. The cloth dark iron stick puppet had to ask Michel for help in grabbing it all. Cheong failed, so at this moment, the mountain axe puppet was wielding its mountain axe and chopping it from top to bottom. Michel Cheong used the dark iron stick puppet's dark iron stick to block the attack of the mountain axe puppet. Later, Michel Cheong vigorously swung the dark iron stick and threw the dark iron stick puppet away, successfully grabbing the dark iron stick. At the same time, the black iron stick puppet that flew out hit the long sword puppet and the black iron spear puppet. The long sword puppet held his long sword and quickly stood up, while the black iron spear puppet held his black iron spear and quickly got up, running towards Michel and Cheong. At this moment, Michel, Cheong discovered. The dark iron stick puppet lay on the ground motionless, and he couldn't help but speculate. Is their weapon their source of power? Then Michel Joan put away the mysterious iron rod and continued to fight against the remaining 5 puppets. I saw him being smashed by a double hammer puppet to prove his hypothesis. And after grabbing the long sword of the long sword puppet, the long sword in the puppet's hand broke away from the puppet's hand, and the common puppet stood still and then fell down. Then Michel and Cheong quickly ran away, distancing themselves from them. Mitchell, who found a way, dealt with the remaining puppets like the same method. After all 6 puppets fell, Michel and Cheong looked at the wheel on the control table. The wheel displayed a puppet finger with a ring, a black iron gun, and a bracelet. After Michel and Cheong found the item on the wheel, they walked towards the control panel and placed the found item on it. They then closed the door, opened Michel and Cheong, and walked in, to be continued. Old man. You are the most despicable person in the world. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I saw Michel. After Cheong walked out of the light gate, what caught my eye was a very wide hall, surrounded by 6 very large pillars, with many ropes hanging from the top of the hall. In the center of the hall, a blue figure leaned on a chair and fell asleep soundly. Michel, Cheong recognized the blue figure at a glance, which was the old man who pinched his little brother while picking at his shorts. Michel and Cheong were instantly furious and rushed towards him at lightning speed. Just as Michel and Cheong met the old man in green, he suddenly disappeared. Michel and Cheong looked around in confusion, but there was no figure of the old man in green. At this moment, the figure of the old man in green suddenly appeared behind Michel and Cheong, and then kicked Michel Bear's butt. He even mocked and said, "Ha ha ha, look, dogs eat shit." At this moment, Michel and Cheong were so angry that they couldn't think. Xuanji quickly got up and rushed towards the old man in green, who was hiding from his attack while saying, "I can't hit you, I'm so angry with you." At this moment, Michel, Cheong had no other concerns. He found a black iron gun in his storage bag and shouted loudly, "If I don't rub 108 holes in you today, I won't be a member of the Michel family." Then Michel and Cheong rushed towards the old man in green with their guns, right there in Michel and Cheong. In the moment of rushing towards the old man in chingy, the black iron gun in his hand disappeared at some point. Michel and Cheong were shocked to find that the old man in chingy had come to him at some point and had taken his black iron gun. Michel Cheong quickly changed to a long sword, and without any accident, it was taken away by the old man in chingy. Michel was poor and did not even see how he made his hand, that's all. Mr. Bear took out 4 or 5 weapons in a row, but the old man in green didn't know how to get them into his hands. Then Michelle and Cheong slapped the old man in the face. The old man in green clothes. Taking advantage of the situation, he squatted down and dodged Michelle and Cheong's palm. Coincidentally, his palm landed on a stone pillar, causing Michelle and Cheong to hold their hands in pain and tremble. At this moment, the old man in green stood up all of a sudden, his head just touching Michelle. Cheong's chin fell to Michelle, and Cheong's fell to the ground. Then the old man in green said, like a turtle, four-legged up, ha ha ha. At this moment, Michelle and Cheong turned around without saying a word, looking for the direction of the exit. He realized that the old man in green was playing with him like a monkey, so he no longer paid attention to him. When the old man in green saw Michelle, Cheong ignored him and guessed what he was thinking. So the old man in green said, "You can't leave, kid. Only I know how to leave this place. If you don't defeat me, I won't tell you." Michelle, upon hearing this, Cheong turned her head with a look of sadness and anger and said, "Grandpa. Just tell me how to get out. I can't stand you anymore. If I stay with you again, I'll go crazy." At this moment, Michelle, look at this. The old man in green clothes in front of me felt extremely angry inside. Then Michelle, with a sudden inspiration, came up with a plan. The old man in green shook his head and tail, saying, "I won't tell you, I won't tell you. If you can hit me, I'll tell you." Later, Michelle pointed to the old man in green and said, "You." Then, a stream of blood spurted out of her mouth and she fell down. The old man in green said upon seeing this, "Stop pretending, kid. I've been tired of this trick for 800 years. Michelle, Cheong remained silent and lay on the ground frowning. The old man in green frowned and said, "Kid, don't scare me, get up quickly." After speaking, he walked towards Michelle and Cheong, right next to the old man in green clothes. Feeling like Michelle, while checking the pulse of Cheong, Michelle Cheong suddenly opened her eyes and reached out to grab the hand of the old man in green. Then Michelle and Cheong rolled over continuously. The old man in green clothes couldn't maintain his balance and fell to the ground. Continuing with the rice noodles, Cheong climbed onto the old man's body. Tie the hands and feet of the old man in green clothes tightly with the rope taken out of the storage bag. Then Michelle Joan rode on the chest of the old man in green, slapping him in the face. Michelle and Cheong slapped him and thought, "I never thought deleting someone's mouth would be so satisfying." Michelle, Cheong, while fighting, thinking, and getting even harder, stop fighting, I'll tell you how to get out." Just when Michelle Cheong was not fully enjoying the fight, the old man in green said. Michelle, Cheong said, "How do I know if you're lying to me?" The old man in green said, "I have fallen into your hands now. Do I dare to deceive you?" Michelle, Cheong thought about it and said, "Then hurry up and tell me." The old man in green said, "Then you can untie it for me first." Michelle, Cheong said, "It's impossible to untie you because you're running too fast. At most, I won't hit you anymore and will take you out." The old man in green said, "Okay, there is a key in the inner pocket of my clothes. Take it and walk straight towards the front of the hall. There is a keyhole where you can insert the key, turn it left and right twice, and a passage will appear. You can go out." Michelle, Cheong. After rummaging through him, he found a key and followed the instructions of the old man in green. He walked forward to the wall in front of him and saw a keyhole. Then, following the old man's instructions, he turned it left and right twice, only to hear a click, as if a mechanism had been activated. After a while without any response, Michelle couldn't contain her anger and thought to herself, "This old man is lying to me again, go back and see if I won't beat him into meat." Immediately Michelle and Cheong walked back and halfway through, they found that the old man in green clothes was missing. At this moment, the center of the square suddenly rose up, and a prison appeared where a woman dressed in rags was imprisoned. Although the woman was particularly dirty, it was not difficult to see that she was a stunning and beautiful woman. Michelle Bear saw the woman and said, don't be afraid, girl. I'll save you now. You stand back first. The ragged woman nodded and said, okay. Then he mobilized the energy within the dantian. Zhaoshuyuan.com swung a punch with his right hand, and the prison fence snapped in response. After a burst of smoke and dust, a ragged woman came out of the prison and said, thank you so much for saving me, Duke N. I have no choice but to make a promise with my own body. Michelle, Cheong thought to herself and said, you're welcome, girl. If you like me, it would be my blessing. Then a ragged woman silently looked at Michelle and Cheong with deep affection. Michelle, Cheong walked excitedly towards a woman in the deep blue. Michelle Cheong hugged a woman covered in blue strands, closed her eyes, and was about to stabilize when she suddenly felt something poking at Michelle. Cheong's lips, Michelle, and Cheong opened their eyes with a puzzled expression. The face that came into view was that of the old man in green, who closed his eyes and pouted his mouth, waiting for Michelle and Cheong's kiss. Michelle, Cheong is ready. Pushing aside the old man in green clothes, he turned around and vomited. Upon seeing this, the old man in green opened his eyes and looked at Michelle Joan, who was vomiting with a puzzled expression. He then took out a mirror and suddenly realized, it's time for the transformation spell. It seems that at this cultivation level, it's not possible to use the transformation spell normally. Michelle, Cheong vomited and chased after the old man in green clothes, picking up a long sword and chopping. While chopping, she said, old man, are you disgusted? Transforming into a beautiful woman to deceive me, what do you want me to do in the future? In the future, when I see beautiful women, I will think of your disgusting face. Then Michelle and Cheong said, don't run, I will kill you. Michelle, Cheong didn't notice that after the efforts of the old man in green, he had become more familiar with Lingshu stepping in the air. Now he could easily catch up with the old man in green. Later, the old man in green was beaten by Michelle and Cheong, causing his nose and face to turn blue and swollen, like a pig. His head grew 3 times larger, and Michelle and Cheong finally calmed down.